Good day, everyone. So, with the release of Natlan, we've gotten a couple of new ring-like weapons that we can choose to put on Kokomi's fingers. The event weapon, the Ashgraven Drinking Horn, quite a bit of a name. We obviously then have the Yakshe Ring, which is the new craftable weapon that you can get in Natlan. I only have like all three because I ran out of like what do you call it, billets. So need to kind of farm for those again. The classic prototype amber, of course, and then the donut, which is my favorite weapon. So let's talk a bit about what each of these weapons can do for Kokomi, and not to waste your time, you can see on screen some results. I recorded this on my account. It's really not the numbers that you should be looking at, more so the relative numbers, but I think what's really more important when comparing these weapons is how you should apply each of them to different combat scenarios and when you should use which. I think that's the real comparison we're all going to go for. But in any case, let's start off with the prototype amber, the classic weapon, and it is quite a good weapon that I would mostly recommend for most Kokomi players, precisely because you can help generate additional fanfare for Farina once you activate your elemental burst, because you get that party-wide HP restoration. Kokomi gets more energy restoration, and generally, because of its high HP like percentage substat, it's going to give you the necessary damage. So that is the good classic weapon I'd recommend it. Oh, by the way, we're running a C6R5 Kokomi, triple crown of course, because why not? This is a Kokomi mains channel. In any case, so that is a normal demonstration. I think everyone's familiar with it. Let's go to the horn and see how we can use it to be... I'm not going to make the joke. In any case, what you need to know about the horn is very simple. All you need to do is hit the enemy with a attack. Most likely it's going to be Kokomi's elemental burst or a jellyfish, and you'll get at flat 34,000 damage, which is roughly about 80% of her max HP, and that is pretty much it. You get a bit of like lower normal attack damage, obviously, because it doesn't have any of those other substats, but you do get more damage up front. So this is interesting in a Kokomi mono Hydra team where perhaps you don't want to spend that much time with Kokomi on field. You'd rather get that upfront damage, deal a bit of damage whilst the Kazuha Vivi Shred is still active, and then just swap to Yelan. So that is where I could see that weapon fitting in. Obviously now let's move on to the Ring of Yakshe. I don't know how to pronounce it, but this weapon is quite interesting. You can use an elemental skill, and then, well, that's the problem. When you use an elemental skill to boost your normal attack damage, you kind of break the Kokomi cycle when it comes to combat. So the cycle typically is you use an elemental skill, you go to Farina, you activate the fanfare, and with the periodic healing whilst you're going through activating Yelan's burst, Kazuha's burst, obviously the jellyfish is going to start contributing as well to the fanfare stacks, and then you refresh it using Kokomi's elemental burst and then attack the enemy. So this weapon, whilst yes, it's giving you more damage than prototype amber and the horn, it comes at a cost of awkward team rotations, and this could have an implication for your energy costs as well, because you're putting out your jellyfish later on in the rotations. You're not getting those extra little hydro particles up front, so that might be a bit of a disadvantage of the weapon. So do be careful with it, and it depends also on which team you're running with Kokomi. So if you're going to go with that hyper carry Kokomi, it's definitely a consideration you need to keep into account, because you don't want to go into her elemental burst and then halfway through, because you've activated your E ability earlier, run out of the buff. In any case, and then we obviously have the final weapon, which is going to do the most damage and be slightly below par in terms of the energy restoration to prototype amber, and that is Kokomi's donut. There's not much to say about it, apart from the fact that prototype amber is even better than an R5 Moonclow because of the hydro resonance, and Hoyo kind of stealth nerfed the weapon and they buffed prototype amber relatively, and nobody at Hoyo had the good decent sense to actually ensure that they consider all of the possibilities, and I wrote lots of emails to them. But once again, Hoyo just doesn't love Kokomi. Oh yeah, the artifacts and builds, just for interest's sake. Right, so let's talk a bit about then the different options. Let's exclude Everlasting Moonclow. So with Prototype Amber, the Horn, and the Ring, I honestly would argue that you're better off with Prototype Amber, just generally, because you get the party-wide healing, and especially in a Kokomi Mono Hydro team with everyone having relatively large HP pools, it's going to give you a benefit. It works with Serena's Fanfest stacks, it alleviates energy, it's just overall a very decent weapon, precisely because the era of Kokomi being the one doing damage and contributing to the bulk of the team's damage, barring Nilo Bloom teams, that era is over. I mean, we've got Mulani teams here at C0 clearing faster than what I'm doing here with a C6 Kokomi being on field, and that's just crazy. Mulani teams can do this 7 seconds faster at C0 just using Sucrose and Xiangling and Kachina. We live in a world where the power creep is really that insane. So from my perspective, don't really waste your time on the other two weapons. Also, the other two weapons aren't really going to give you that team-wide heal, so you're kind of losing out on a bit of team utility. And the one thing that we know about Genshin Impact is, unless you are the hyper carry, you need to be a strong support, or at least a decent sub DPS that has some support capabilities. And I don't feel like the other two weapons are really providing that, unless of course you want to play physical Kokomi with the clam set, then perhaps the horn might be interesting, because it effectively acts like another clam set upfront damage that you get early on, but it's only once every 15 seconds, so that's kind of a bit of a bust. So yeah, that would be my conclusion, but do feel free to play around. Ultimately, Kokomi's damage outside of Needle Blooms is not going to be that significant, so it's not like there is that much that you're going to lose out. And yeah, I just wish the donut was better. RIP. Alright, thanks for watching and have a good day.